Hello, friends, and welcome to Friends in Fiction, four New York Times bestselling authors' endless stories. I'm Kristin Harmel, and on behalf of all four authors of Friends in Fiction, including Kristy Woodson Harvey, Mary Kay Andrews, and Patti Callahan Henry, I'm excited to welcome you to a special episode of Friends in Fiction Behind the Book, a quick, deep dive into the life and work of one of our favorite authors. So today, we are so happy to welcome our friend Erika Robuck, the national best-selling author of historical fiction, including Sisters of Night and Fog, The Invisible Woman, and Hemingway's Girl. Her articles have appeared in Writer Unboxed, Crime Reads, and Writer's Digest, and she's been named the Maryland Writing Association's Notable Writer of April 2024. A boating enthusiast, amateur historian, and teacher, she resides in Annapolis with her husband and three sons. So welcome, Erika!
Hello,
Yay!
welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. And as I was telling you backstage, this is my first time recording one of these myself. So I'm just so relieved that that worked when I brought you in. So already
Amazing.
we're off to an amazing start.
Of course, always. Yeah. I have complete confidence in you.
No, it may very well be misplaced, but I will take it. So,
Oh,
Erika, your latest novel, The Last 12 Miles, which get a load of that beautiful cover, is set against the backdrop of the Prohibition Rum Wars as we meet two real women on opposite sides of the law. One a Coast Guard special agent and one a bootlegger, which I love. And they are locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Booklist says danger and intrigue will come to a head as Elizabeth and Marie play a deadly game of cat and mouse along the Florida coast. So, Erika, can you tell us a little bit about The Last 12 Miles and what inspired the book for you?
yes, I've really become obsessed with women in the shadows of history. And the deeper I get into it, the more new stories open up. So when I was writing my Women in Intelligence in World War II novels, I had three different people at three different events raise their hands completely independent of each other and say, I really think you should look into the life of cryptanalyst Elizabeth Smith Friedman.
Oh my
And the first
gosh.
time I heard it, it just kind of glossed over. The second one, it landed. The third, I was like, I really, I like to pay attention to these kinds of signs.
Interesting.
So I
Yeah.
went home and I Googled Elizabeth Smith Friedman because I didn't know anything about her. And a book came up, a biography. And I looked over and a reader had brought me a gift basket at one of my events with French resistance jams and all
Oh,
these cool
cool.
things. But in it had put the biography of Elizabeth Smith Friedman. So I was
Stop.
like, all right, I'm in. So, and it didn't take long
Oh,
for me to realize why. I mean, I had been writing about these Allied spies who were real women, and
yep.
Elizabeth was no exception. And her career went from the Great War through World War II. I knew I didn't want to write World War II again because I'd been
Okay.
there. And so I really got captivated by the Prohibition years and settings that had been part of my former novels, like Hemingway's Girl. So for this book, I even have a few Hemingway's Girl Easter eggs.
Oh, I love that. I love it when writers do that. And hearing you talk about that reminds me of our other Friends in Fiction host, Patti Callahan Henry, who had very much the same experience with her book, Surviving Savannah. Somebody
Yes.
mentioned it, then somebody else mentioned it.
Yeah.
And it was like the universe just seemed to be conspiring to push her toward writing this book. So I love it when things like that happen. It feels like it's kind of a meant to be sort of book.
Yeah, and those little serendipities, it's nice
Yeah.
affirmation.
I
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So I know, as you mentioned, these characters are real historical figures, and I know that you like to write about real women, which is different than what I do. I write fictionalized versions of women who lived through real events. So it's, I think, two completely different
Completely.
ways of going about it. Can you
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about how you went about researching this book to get each of these two characters right?
Yes, I love the research. That's what I'm all about. And for me, I actually have a very poor imagination for stories.
That's not
So
true at
when
all.
people
I
tell
know
me
that's not true.
no, when they tell me they come up with these completely fictional stories, it doesn't make any sense to me. I need it all to be mapped out, and then I just have to find the story. So I'm more of a sleuth. I find the
Ooh, I like
story,
that.
I find the moment in history, and then it's really, a lot of the work is done for me. I just have to figure out how to turn it into a novel. But for this one, after reading some biographies, I went to the National Archives in DC, where they have all the Prohibition Coast Guard files.
Yep.
And I start going through them. And what I was really seeking, I knew I wanted to write about Elizabeth Friedman during that time, but I needed a villain. And I really wanted a
Yeah.
real villain. And I really wanted it to be a woman. And so
Mm.
that's what I was looking for because there were so many men she helped nab.
Yeah.
And I started to find this man, Charles Waite, a notorious king of the rum runners. He ends up, I won't tell too much about him because you'll find out about it in the story. But then I started seeing things about Mrs. C.W. Waite, and she started drawing my attention away. And then I
Mm.
realized what was happening. And knowing, being a woman in a man's world, we do a lot behind the
Yeah.
shadows there, sort of behind the curtain. And the more I realized that she was what became the notorious Spanish Marie. And so, asking you shall receive, I found the most notorious, glorious rum runner woman that I could. And she
So
really did
awesome.
some diabolical things. So the story just really kind of wrote itself at that point.
Oh my God, that is incredible. Well, it's not just that you have these two just fascinating characters at the heart of your story, but you also have really fascinating settings. And I think setting plays such an important role here. You bring the Florida coast alive, the Straits of Florida, and Prohibition era DC. Like these are the places where this is sort of all playing out. So, can you talk to us a little bit about why the setting matters so much in this book and how you went about getting that right?
Yes. So for me, setting is a huge piece part of character, and I want to be a place where I can immerse myself. I
Yeah.
had just come out of the World War II novels, and my second one was partially set in Ravensbrück concentration camp.
Yeah.
So I needed to get into
Yeah.
I wanted a different headspace. I wanted something fresh air to clear that out. And I do spend a lot of time in Florida. My husband and I love to go to the Keys.
Yeah.
And so, we really took one for the team. We went back to the Keys. We did the research. We drank cocktails. It's so hard. You're always trying all these new cocktails. And in terms of DC, I live right in Annapolis, so I'm in DC all the time, and I really enjoyed sort of the glamorous time of the 1920s and the
Yeah.
parties with intelligence and all the things going on there. I have relatives in the Coast Guard. I spent half my life on a boat, so writing those scenes, I would even have my husband run us really fast toward a coast like we were going to beach the boat, just to kind of capture some of these chase scenes to really authenticate them. So when my readers are reading this book, I do recommend you're on a beach somewhere with a cocktail of some kind. Someone asked me, should I read this on a cruise ship? Even better. Yes. If you're on a boat with a cocktail, you will really enjoy this and the hijinks. So.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay, so Erica, we've talked about setting, we've talked about character, we've talked about how you dive into the history. But I feel like when we're writing books like this, themes have a way of rising up. I don't know about you, whether you start with the theme or it sounds to me like you're starting with the interesting story, which is what I do. I start with the story and then the themes kind of bubble up as I'm writing.
Mhm.
What would you say you hope readers take away from this book? What is this book at its heart?
This book is really a book about being a woman, a wife, and a mother, and what that means, and how it looks different on different people,
Mm,
and then the choices that we make in these little homes and families, or big homes and families,
yeah.
and just how it all plays out. So I'm kind of a believer that you get what you choose, and
Yep.
so you see these women make little choices along the way, and then they really get what they choose. So I think it's really I enjoyed going along for the ride, and I thought I know how things are going to go. And then about halfway through the book, Marie Wade, who is really quite an antagonist, I started to feel for her, and
Ooh,
I was
okay.
fascinated by how her character became very, very layered and developed, and I think more sympathetic. And my
Okay.
protagonist, who works in intelligence, who really has to compartmentalize what she's doing to nab people versus the life she leads, I felt like she's becoming a little more, dare I say, cold. Not cold, but just there was a really interesting character arc that happened. And so, as always happens when I put women as foils for each other,
Yeah.
I really think they get revealed in their totality, and nobody's just good and no one is just
Such
bad.
a
So
good
that's what I love to
point.
discover along the way.
Well, and I feel like as a writer, you have to find your way into those bad guy characters just as
Yeah.
much as you find your way into the good guys because nobody thinks of themselves as the bad guy in their own story, right? Like everybody
Right.
is doing what they think is right, right?
Yes.
So
Even if it's really bad. Yeah.
you just have to figure it out from their point of view. Like, why is this justified? You are absolutely right. Well, Erica, we so appreciate you joining us today. Before we
Yeah.
let you go, or before I let you go, can you tell us where readers can find out more about the last 12 miles and about you and your tour schedule? I know you're going on a tour because you're coming to my
Yes.
town.
Yeah. So I'll be here, there, and everywhere. I want to first say, if you're interested in pre-ordering, I'm partnering with A Likely Story. It's an
Oh,
independent
great.
bookseller in Maryland. And if you get the paperback, not only we get the signed paperback, the bookmarks, but you'll get a custom shot glass. And don't we all
Oh,
need that? Yes.
we do.
So yeah, to find out everything about all the tours, giveaways, everything going on, newsletter, my website, which is erikarobuck.com, ErikaRobuck.com. On social media, I spend the most time between Facebook and Instagram, so you can always find me there. And just thanks so much for having me. I love being on Friends of Fiction.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Erica. We love having you. We're so happy to share this great book with our community. And I cannot wait to hopefully see you in Orlando when you are here on tour.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So, to all of you out there, don't forget to tune in every Wednesday night here on Facebook and YouTube for brand new, longer form content about books, authors, and the reading and writing worlds. You can find out everything about the Friends and Fiction universe, from the live show to the podcast, the newsletter to events, information about how to purchase our guests' books, and updates from the Friends and Fiction official book club on our website, friendsandfiction.com. So thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.